trailhead that is in their queue right now to get improved. But knowing that it's savvy with the neighborhood to move forward with this, we'll put it in our queue and get working on it. There's a budget for it with some improvements associated with the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, and the trails crew would like to move with this just as soon as possible. Thank you all for that feedback. Rachel, do we have a slide on Rock Canyon Trailhead? Okay. Well, I'm glad to talk about Rock Canyon Trailhead improvements. So I believe it was in March, we contracted with Kenny Sane Construction, who is the contractor for the improvements at Rock Canyon Trailhead, which is right on the northeast of your neighborhood district, but it is a regional facility, serves the whole community and a lot of visitors to Provo City. And these improvements are primarily taking place off of the roadway here with the parking lot improvements, restroom replacement, and upsizing. The amphitheater is getting improvements. There will be a small rock climbing wall for younger children to get some bouldering experience with some soft fall protection underneath it before heading up into the canyon. There's also a lot of wayfinding. As I mentioned before, the trails crew is helping to work with volunteers to cut these new interpretive loops that talk about animal life, plant life, the ecology that's in the canyon, and bringing a lot of information to the visitors to Rock Canyon. We are currently on schedule. The project is running under or at budget, and we are anticipating an opening this fall.
Okay, you just answered my question. I wondered what the schedule was. So you expect all improvements to be completed by this fall?
Yes.
Okay, a question I've gotten from many people in the neighborhood is why all the existing trees were taken out? Why so many?
Yes, with the parking lot grading, that there was changes in the grading to accommodate the larger parking area. And being on the slope, we couldn't just tip it for our accessibility requirements to get disabled persons in and out of the facility. So there's also requirements with a large gas pipeline that runs south to north through the property that we have a lot of requirements to accommodate that easement. They are allowing construction on top of that pipeline, but we can't just put trees on top of their pipeline. We can't put light poles on top of their pipeline. There's proximity requirements around that. So we have been able to, this is this morning. These are the improvements looking down from, this is looking from the south to the north. So up in this area, we've been able to maintain most of the vegetation. We've been able to preserve to the north of the parking area as well, but there will be all new plantings throughout the parking lot, improvements that should be seen here towards the end of summer when those be replanted.
I know this is rather late, but since water doesn't come down there unless there's a huge runoff, has there been something addressed for changing the biology of the canyon, the vegetation, everything without the water that has been there forever and ever?
That's a very interesting comment. As a second project that's unrelated to Parks and Recreation, but Public Works has been putting in a large pipeline that feeds from the river there at 20 or close to 2230 north. They are bringing water all the way up into the canyon and discharging up by the chlorinator station by the canyon mouth, and are going to be running water year round, both on the north of the existing channel along the north of the property, along the base of this mountain, and it will also come down the south. It'll be parallel to those trails that I pointed out earlier, the nature interpretive loops that are there on the south side. It'll run right parallel at the foot of the South Mountain additional water. So there has been considerations, and there is going to be more year-round water in the canyon after the Public Works project is completed. They are under construction. There's some other components besides the pipeline that are down at the bottom of the hill, pump stations, treatment plants and such that are underway. If you drive up Freedom Boulevard, just before 2230 North, there's a big hole in the ground that's being dug right now. That's where the new water treatment plant is being constructed. So all of that is tied together to bring Provo River water up into the canyon. It's quite an undertaking. I think there's information on the Public Works website for the aquifer storage and recharge project. It's associated with that. So well, that's not my department, but it's my understanding that those springs are captured in a pipeline that come down to the small chlorinator station. It's a little small building at the mouth of the canyon that treats that water, and then it goes into the water tank on the north side of the canyon there, and it's drinking water for the city. That's where the canyon's water has been collected. I understand right now with the spring runoff, water is flowing down the east end of the layout, so it's clear up here still, but it's working its way down towards Rock Canyon Park. Then they expect low to moderate flows in a couple of weeks to reach Rock Canyon Park.
At another neighborhood meeting, we could have the Metropolitan Water Board come and explain about the aquifer recharge project and the new water treatment plant, because there's some really forward-thinking water developments going on right now, and we ought to applaud our city for what they're doing and take our questions to them so that they can help people be informed, because water is definitely a very important issue right now.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, about kind of both of these projects. As a person of Nordic background, I'm always worried about shade and the temperature coming off of asphalt and the accessibility of water, particularly in these areas. Can you speak to that, especially because there's so much more asphalt going in?
Yeah, there are requirements for us to cover when the trees are mature, 50% shade canopy over the parking areas. And we've done that through design around the perimeter of the pipeline here. And then we have some other internal parking islands that will have trees in them to help shade from the interior at Rock Canyon Park. Up at Foothills Trails Park, we haven't gotten to the point vegetation, but it's something that we will have to be compliant with Provo City Code. Well, thank you so much for your time. I hope to get you guys back on track for your schedule tonight. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is we've gone to our beyond our information. Please, thank the city for that information. Our city has a lot of really good things just to inform us about, and they're actually sort of amazing things in lots of ways. And so I hope you're appreciative of the good work that happens there. We have a planning item on Buckley Draw, and
okay, I'll introduce this if that's
Great.
okay.
thank you.
Thank you, McKay. So just to remind you, just some decorum with the planning items. Developers are not required to attend neighborhood district meetings. They are coming because they want to speak to you and they want to have a discussion. So this is your time to ask questions of the developer, and this is the developer's time to answer your questions and also to listen to your concerns. Please keep in mind that the applicant for Buckley Draw is actually Development Services. It's Provo City. This is Provo City land. But the developer is who is going to be presenting what they're going to be doing. Some questions to consider are, what are the benefits to the neighborhood and city? What are potential downsides and impacts? And why is this zone change better than what currently exists? And a question we always get asked is, can neighborhoods ask for a development agreement? The answer is no. And Provo City also cannot ask for a development agreement. But we can ask how the developer will address concerns or make guarantees. If you still have questions after this presentation, we will put the project slides online and you can contact the city planner, who is Aaron Ardmore. Aaron, raise your hand. He will have lots of answers, and his contact information is actually on your agenda. So again, his name is Aaron Ardmore. And just to kind of let you know where we're at in the development process. So we've had the idea, they've done their application. Right now, we're in the review process where the developer goes back and forth with the city, making sure everything fits code, everything's going to work. So what you see tonight might change a little bit because they're still in this review process. After they've gone through all the reviews, it'll go before the Planning Commission. This is a great time for you to come and make public comment because the Planning Commission will make a recommendation. And so if you love the project, if you hate the project, that's where you need to go, is the Planning Commission meeting. And then after Planning Commission, it'll go to City Council. They make the final decision. So if you really love it or really hate it, make sure you let the City Council know. And we had a question. Right. And so that's what we're going to be discussing tonight, is the zone change. And they're going to show us a little bit of their project, but it's mostly the zone change. And so with that, I will let David is here to present. So if you want to go up front and kind of explain about your project, or have Aaron introduce it.
Thank you. I'll just take a brief moment to give a background and update on that. So Rachel mentioned that Development Services is the applicant. City owns the land. We are applying for the rezone, but we have partnered with Anderson Development. Dave Morton's here to go through the project. It has been going through the staff review for a little while now and is slated to be on the May 22nd Planning Commission agenda. So if you want to mark that date on your calendars to attend, that's when you can express your opinions and feedback on the plan. But I will turn it over to Dave Morton now.
Is this a good one? Is this one a good? Okay. I think they were doing that on purpose. They were trying to give me a dead one. Thank you. I want to, Aaron, thank you so much for the introduction. Also, Rachel, thank you. My name is Dave Morton and I'm with Anderson Development. And so I'm the big bad developer. So the opportunity that I have is one that's really exciting. And that is that we get to create dreams for people. We have an opportunity, and I know that sounds kind of, for those of you that aren't really happy with the project, that might seem difficult. But believe it or not, it's one of my favorite things is to see when a project actually comes to fruition and how we work together, private development and the city. We've actually worked with the city back and forth for quite a while with the city staff to try to make certain that we had something that we thought fit this area. It was important for the city and for us to make certain that it was something that hopefully it would work for the neighboring area. So it is, this street right here is Nevada, and this is Slate right up here. So if you go to, I've got another slide that it's kind of a site, and that one, yes. So right here, this is the new portion of Bicentennial Park. This is the old area. We've got Spring Creek Elementary School right here. So it's an absolute beautiful piece of ground. that we can utilize in a very unique way. Many times with a lot of things that look really nice, they pose challenges. And that's one of the things that we're here to discuss tonight, is some of the challenges that we have and some of the things that you're concerned about. So what I'd like to do is maybe go through a list of kind of outline the project and some of its unique attributes and features. Number one, it's all single family. So there's no attached product at all. Minimum of 2-car garages, and there will be some homes up on the top that will actually probably be 3-car specifically. And I have some examples of some of the elevations that we'll use. Based on the topography, working with the city, we've made the decision that all of the homes will be front loaded, which means that it will be more of a traditional driveway, pull into the driveway and you walk into your home versus an alley load. Some of the challenges with alley load, they're utilized a lot with attached product, is that you have parking challenges because people like to park traditionally in front of their house. And if we were fronting Nevada, we would have people parking along Nevada. And so as we kind of go through that site plan, I'll kind of go through with you together a little bit on how we've decided to develop it in this way and even how we've structured the road systems. Our home orientation is designed to minimize driveway slope. So on the uphill side, we have what are called tuck-ins. So we utilize the actual natural topography and we tuck the home in slightly. On the downhill side, I'll show that to you when we have the slide up, we do what's called a walkout basement. So those two things do is they allow us to retain utilizing the foundations of the home so we can utilize that topography in a very unique way to try to minimize our retaining. The more retaining we have, the more expensive the project is, and the more difficult it is to get a home price that is reasonable for individuals. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's see, home values. Home values are expected to be between $575,000 and $700,000, right in that price range. The lower homes on the farthest to the west will be the least expensive homes. And as they go up, they will be a little bit more expensive. The homes, they'll range probably anywhere from at the very, very smallest, 2,000 square feet upwards of 4,000 square feet. And that would include basements. So the goal here is to try to utilize the land in a very unique way so that we can provide a very unique environment. And we'll walk through a few of the amenities and the features that we're going to include as we've discussed this with the city that we've come up with that we think will make a nice neighborhood. Okay. One of the challenges that you have in a development, especially early on, and with some of those lower priced homes in the 575 range, you may have some first-time home buyers. And some of the difficulties in that, if you've ever gone through a development that's brand new, I have a son that just moved into a home in Saratoga Springs. And the challenge is that they've put in their lawns, but everybody kind of decides how they're going to mow it. And it sometimes kids today aren't as excited about mowing. I remember when my wife and I got our first home in Sandy, I was excited to get my lawnmower and mow my lawn every week. Well, my son isn't as excited about doing that as I am. So one of the things that we're focused on is that all of the front yards will be maintained by the HOA to provide a uniform and consistent look and to have the upkeep of the project look very nice. And that will be one of the focuses. We will focus on utilizing more of a water-wise type of a utilization of planting. Before you just heard a lot about trees and how those can be utilized in a unique way. In addition, we'll have park strips where they're kind of decorated a little differently. Instead of it all being turf, we'll utilize some drought-resistant plants and possibly some trees to be able to kind of provide a unique look and feel to the area. Next. This is one of my favorites. So wherever we have a street that it is facing let's see, can we see the top of that slide by any chance? I think if you click, it has the actual title. So anywhere where we've got any type of backyard that's facing a street, we will require a semi-private fence. And the goal there is to make it so that people don't feel as though they're enclosed in an alley, to give it a more open feel and a more safe feel. Okay, next slide. In addition, there's, I believe, a little over half an acre of 8 to 10 foot trail that we're putting through the project. We're actually connecting, I'll show you, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail all the way to Bicentennial Park. And so we're going to provide, the HOA is going to provide additional lighting along that trail, again, to provide a safe environment for all those who are utilizing it. Okay, next slide. In addition, both of the entrances will have entry features to kind of introduce individuals to the project itself. Next slide. Now, this is an outline of the amenities. Now, these aren't going to mean a lot to you, but because each of them, so you can't see the letters very well, but each of them associate to where we're putting a specific amenity. So if we can go on to the next slide. So we've got, I believe, 2 pickleball courts for those of you that enjoy playing pickleball that will be able to be utilized by the individuals in the project itself. We're going to provide some garden boxes, and I can show you on one of the slides where we're actually putting those to provide a community garden. These will be front loaded, so these homes will have backyards, but there may be people that don't want, maybe there's not enough space or room in their backyard and they would like to just participate with the community gardens. We're going to utilize some gazebos. We've got a playground area that's near the pickleball courts and some benches for parents to actually watch their kids. Next slide. I'll show you on the, we've got an overlook area that's at the very farthest east portion of the project where that'll have some tables where people can just take some time and enjoy the view. How many of you have been hiked up near the Bonneville Shoreline Trail in that area? It's gorgeous and the view is stunning. And so not only will the homes be able to have a beautiful view, but also those individuals who are living in that area will be able to enjoy that with some of the amenities that we'll be proposing. I'm sorry. In the project, yes. Yes, next slide. Some of the amenities, and I'll share with you some of them that will, the area, this is specific to the area along Nevada and Slate. So we've got an 8 to 10 foot meandering trail that actually will go along Slate and Nevada. And then there will be some vegetation, and then there will be a small retaining wall, again, to give that kind of community feel to the area. I also am aware that I think along Slate, there's no longer any overnight parking. And so that this will really be able to show off that area really nicely with some of the vegetation that we'll have along there. Next slide. We'll have a trailhead and a parking lot at the base of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. And so there will be some advantages to that, where I believe currently right now there is a trailhead close to Oregon Avenue. Is that correct? To the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. It's just a little bit, I think, to the south. Yes. Is that, did I south or north? Did I get the direction? I think it's south. And I think that actually in those, there is no parking right there. And so one of the nice things that we'll have is that we'll have a parking area for people to actually at the base or at that trailhead to utilize the parking. And I believe, is Parks and Rec still here? I believe we are talking about putting some restrooms at that trailhead. Is that correct? Wonderful. So you heard it. I didn't have to say it. So we'll have some there. So it'll be a very nice amenity for those people enjoying that trailhead. Next slide. Let's see. Can we go back to let's go back to the actual plan itself. Let's go back to the site plan, the larger one, so pan out a little bit, because I'm going to go through a couple things and then I'll make sure you've got time for questions. So one more slide down, I believe. Kind of the bird's eye, that one. So this, I believe currently right there is a trailhead to the Bonneville Shoreline Trail. And I think when I've been up there before, there are people that park along that street. One of the nice things is that this is where the trailhead will be right there. We'll have a parking lot. And so the goal and hope is that we'll take some of the pressure off of that and people will utilize this, especially if we've got amenities such as restrooms, which will be nice. Just below the parking lot on the other side of the road is where the overlook area will be. So you'll have an unobstructed view along that area of that entire valley where people will be able to relax and enjoy. We've got a trail that comes right down to my default microphone. Trail will actually meander down and it will come, let's see, I wonder if I need to be farther away. My default microphone. Okay, so I don't want to mess it up. The trail will come down through here, comes all the way along Nevada. And then the goal will be, and I know there has been some discussion with the city to possibly have some form of a crosswalk. So we can get people safely to Bicentennial Park. Now I'm not promising anything from the city, so I apologize, Bill, and if I step my bounds there. But I think we've just had some discussion specifically about that. Our pickleball courts will be right there, garden area, community garden right in there. And then we've got an open area right there. And I know there has been some discussion in that, is it a dog park? Is that what was popular? There has been some discussions about some sort of leashless dog park. I don't know if I got that right. And there may be some possibilities that we can do. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Let me go see. If I missed any high points.
Zoning change.
Yeah, so the zoning change, we will, I believe it's an R18. Is that correct?
Zoning is P, public facility.
Currently.
The zone change would be R18 PD.
Correct, to an R18 PD, yes. Yes, please. Please.
Oh, I have, I think about 3 questions.
Okay, my mic here, please.
I don't have a very loud voice, but,
Oh, you're fine.
they put video, so without asking. Okay, so my first question is, I've lived on that hillside for many years, and we've had a few forest fires or field fires up there.
Yeah,
And it became an area for mudslide protection.
yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what's your plan for that?
That's a really good question. So I don't know how long ago it was, the last fire, but if we can go back to the slide that we had up there originally.
It was like 2002.
Yeah, so,
There was one right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the one that I think most people are referring to is the one that was in 2002 that really did, it kind of charted the area a little bit and created some concerns about flooding, right? Which kind of, and originally the draw itself, naturally, the water came right down through the draw right there. And so what the city did is that they kind of created a berm. You can see the dark area on the top and made certain that the water and any debris were caught prior to that. So if there was ever any type of an event that happened like that again, then the water and the debris would be transitioned through that channel.
And down into that area, you're talking about building, and that's why that fence is
Yes,
there.
exactly. And you're exactly right. And so what we've done with the city is, so we're currently right now in the process of doing a hydrology report. We've already done a geotechnical as well as a fault study. And so what we're going to be doing with the city is we're going to continue this channel and take it through the open space right up top. So we'll redirect any water or debris in the event of any kind of catastrophic event so that it avoids any of the homes, and we redirect it down into here and into the park. Which is essentially, so I don't know, I live in the Sandy Drift area, so we utilize our regional parks as large regional detention ponds. So in the event of a catastrophic event, the water is held in essentially the parks. And so that's kind of, I think that's the approach, is in the event of a catastrophic event, the safest area for that water to go is in this area right here. And again, the types of events that have those type don't happen a lot, but when they do, we want to be prepared for them. And that's what we've done to kind of make certain that that's done. Yes.
Yeah.
Did she have another question? Please.
On your mind.
Well, what I wanted to talk about is there's some people that wonder why the city is selling this at all, perhaps, and developing it, because we've all loved having just this open hillside where we can walk our dogs, and it's just been wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the history, and I'll try to make this short. But some of you might remember where the 55 and older homes are is where the county jail used to be. And when the county stopped using the county jail, they decided to put it up for sale to whoever wanted to run a private jail. And so the neighborhood asked the city to step in and buy the property. And to do that, they ended up buying where the school is, where the church is, where the homes are here are, the hillside, and even where the 7-Eleven is on State Street. And they paid like $1.2 million to make sure that our neighborhood was not forever the home of a jail. Now they've had to recoup their money, and they developed this, luckily, in low density. We had to fight for that. They promised that this would be single family homes, and they are keeping their promise. If it had been sold to someone else, if the city didn't buy it, it could have possibly been higher density. Certainly, someone would have argued for such. So, yes.
It's for somebody to buy it though, if someone rezone it from the public facility, so someone could develop it off the right.
Well, it is public facility, and it was when the city bought it from the county. But if someone had bought it instead of the city, they would have done their best to negotiate a higher density. And when we did our neighborhood plan, we fought hard to make sure that this was single family, because that was kind of promised to us. So I just want to tell you, the neighborhood, the city is being straight up with us and delivering what they promised. And you also need to know that the proceeds from this are not just going into the city coffers. The proceeds from the sale of this are supposed to develop Bicentennial Park and finish the park, right?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. What was your name? Thank you, Dave.
I think one of the biggest concerns is the number of homes. Single family, yes, we want that, but the number of homes being squished into this, these are patio homes, there's no yard. Hence why you're filling it with all these extra amenities to raise the prices of the homes. I personally would like to see something with far less homes than 110 on this hillside. I think that's overbuilding. I think it's going to contribute to the existing problems on Slate Canyon Drive that we're already working with the city to try and resolve. It's going to increase those traffic and parking issues on Slate Canyon. I don't think there's going to be enough. We see it on Slate Canyon when you've got a 2-car garage that people who have 4 cars are going to be pushing out into the street. Putting in a garage does not mean that those cars aren't going to be on the roads or on this parking on the streets. Let's see.
Would you like me to address any of those things? Or?
Well, I'd love to address why we can't have homes there, but far less than 110.
Well, let me address number one, the types of homes that are on there. They are not patio homes. And some of this is semantics. These are single family detached homes that have a front yard and a backyard. So I want to make that very clear. They're not patio homes. We do design and build patio homes.
But patio homes are referring to the side of the
No, they're
yard.
not. They're usually not. But that's okay. These are very traditional front yard, backyard and I do understand your concerns. I really do. So I'm not trying to do this, but I'm just making it clear. Sorry, we've got a lot of. I wanted to get back to this. Can I get right back? She waited. You had your. Did you want to add? You had 2 more questions? Yeah, please.
I totally agree with her. My concern is the density of it.
Sure.
I'm wondering what the size of the smallest lots are going to be.
The smallest lots are about 5,000 square feet. The largest ones are about 10,000.
See, to me, 5,000 square feet is pretty small.
Yeah, and again, so this is where the real conundrum comes, is that one of the questions that everybody wants to know is, is this home going to be affordable? Is this something that my son or my daughter can live in? And the challenge that we're running into, and this is, especially in Utah, we've run into this the last 4 or 5 years, and we've just been a part of it, is that the land values have gone so high that it makes it very difficult for us to make it so the only way to do that is to try to reduce the size of the lot slightly. So the nice thing what we're doing is that we've got varied lot sizes. And so we have, again, some homes that will be in the $575,000 range, and some homes they'll be more expensive.
So my comment is along the lines of the young lady that went. We already have traffic problems in the neighborhood. People come down Nevada Avenue at 45 miles an hour plus and go up 45 miles an hour plus with the school there. And with the school there, and there's no traffic control on that road, and you're putting in 110 homes that are going to dramatically impact the traffic in the whole area, as well as you're talking about making it its own community, so you're restricting access with fences to that whole area is what it sounds like to me. I mean, I hear your spin on it, it's very nice, but for the rest of us in the community, that's a huge impact on traffic and access. And I'd like to it doesn't make sense for the rest of the community. It makes a lot of sense for you as a developer. Yes, I hear what you're saying with land prices, but you know,
It also makes a lot of
prices are
sense.
skyrocketing, and they're gonna keep skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And more homes on that hill is not going to help the price of the homes not skyrocket.
And I'm not trying to control the prices of homes. What we're trying to do is provide a single family home in East Provo. And in a very unique area. Bill, do you want to make a comment?
I'm Bill Pepperoni with the Development Services team. I just wanted to address the questions about lot sizes and density. When Anderson Development very first started this project, they were instructed not to ask for or even try to go over 4 units to the acre, 4 dwelling units to the acre, because that's generally what R18 zoning is. The reason the lot sizes are what they are is because 40% of the land is in open space. The density's been clustered in 60% of the land. That's why there's the smaller lots down there. We have found in the city, we've got a huge pent-up demand for single-family detached lots, single-family detached homes. Over the last 7 years, the city's been approving 9 apartment units or townhomes for every 1 single-family lot. We're getting really out of proportion. So we need all of these types of lots we can. At the same time, we've got the governor telling the cities don't step up and solve our housing problem, the state's gonna step up and do it. Okay, so we're trying to balance all of these many different interests and ideas and pressures on us, and trying to balance all of those. This is what we came up with.
So it's good. I wanted to answer her parking real quick. Sorry, real quick, the answer part. It's a good question. Again, our parking it's what I would call self-contained. So because we have full width streets, we've got, again, you're right, people will end up parking on the street occasionally. That I do too in my single family neighborhood. I still sometimes in other guests park on the street. But the nice thing is that our parking is all self-contained. And so it's not going, we're not going to bleed onto Slate in Nevada. It is going to be self-contained within our project. So hopefully that answered the parking question. Yes, please.
first of all, I appreciate you coming up to answer questions about this, and it certainly looks like you've taken into consideration that this might kind of hit or miss. Sorry, you've taken into consideration a lot of the wishes and the residents and whatnot. So I truly thank you for that. And I preface that because I don't want to come on this overly antagonistic, because I do have several concerns, but I truly do appreciate that. Our house butts right up to that, and you know, it's a personal thing. There's issues with property values and so on, and it's going to affect the others. But one of the things with that lot is that it's very unique. There's a lot of land in Provo, but there's not much of it that provides contiguousness between the mountains and the green area. And that goes down all the way from there to Bicentennial Park across, and it's very broad, and it's one of the few that exist. A couple winters ago, I mean, there were every night 50 up down grazing that, right? So I mean, you're getting rid of wildlife habitat. That's one thing. That's one concern. Property values of adjacent properties, you're getting rid of that too. But if you look at the sign behind you, the Provo sign, that kind of captures the essence of what Provo is. It's a small town blend with some big city amenities too. So you see the mountain, you see the stream and all of that. That's part of the appeal on like a modern standpoint is the blend of everything versus just packing everything into as much space as you can. And I appreciate the green area there too, but I mean, this is an extremely unique area. And so to kind of take that away, I mean, there's a lot to it. So
Sure.
one, there's the green area that people use, of course. There's the surrounding property values. There's more use. Sure, you got that, and there's the continuity between the other lane and that. But also, and I just want to point out one thing.
Please.
So right here, and this is perhaps the biggest concern to me, is right here, the school, pre elementary.
Yep.
So there's already not a school zone there, and my kids walk from here to there. Tons of other kids walk and almost get hit by cars almost every single day. There's an outlet here for another 110 homes and another trailhead. How much more traffic is that going to bring through here? And it's already out of control, totally out of control, where people like, it's not like there's an accident every day, but if one kid gets hit by a car, a single kid. I mean, I've had bicyclists come and say, I basically almost got hit by a car today. There are other ways to control that. I realize that, but that's just one thing, and it just seems rushed from so many perspectives. But I truly do appreciate that. But there are just so many concerns.
Thank you. No, I understand that. And I live in the neighborhood and I would be concerned about the same things you are. I want you to know this has been anything but rushed. We have spent a long period of time going back and forth with the city, even in the designing of the road systems because of the topography that we have, this unique. Part of the reason that we actually put our outlet here is to allow, and with the trail is to allow kids hopefully a safe passage to the school. Again, but that was, those could be things that we could discuss. Please.
I've got a problem with that.
Okay,
I live right there.
okay, where do you
My
live?
bedroom is right there.
Your bedroom?
You're putting, right there. You're putting gazebos there.
Right by your
If
bedroom.
they spray graffiti on the fence and to keep us up all night, you probably want to put lights there too in one bedroom.
No, I wouldn't put any lights in your bedroom window, ever. Scouts honor, I promise I wouldn't do that. But I do understand your concern, yes, thank you.
That's a good transition to mine. I like the project. I live right down the hill and I would be in a demographic to buy one of these. So my two questions, my first one is about the lighting. Well, because you mentioned the lighting, I didn't see any sort of shielding on the lighting. And with this being on the hillside, would you be open to like a full cutoff shielding or something to reduce any?
I think that would actually, we would be happy to do that as long as we could work, if that, the city of Provo wouldn't have any issues with that. Again, if there was some ordinance that didn't allow us to provide shielding, but yes, and I get that. I don't want to have a light shining into my bedroom. That would be the last. You don't want kids hanging around your bedroom either, I know. I don't blame you. Yes, I get it.
And then on the
Please.
trail, the Bonneville Shoreline Trail is kind of split into two. There's the upper trail, but the lower trail is used by a lot of people who live in that area. So Alpine Loop immediately to the left, as a entrance to the trail. And I don't see, I just don't know if, like, how does this interplay with that existing trail?
That's a great question. It doesn't, right? But it possibly could.
Are you wanting, I mean, is it suggesting that it would be blocked off, or?
I don't think the goal would be to be blocked off. I don't think that we have we're so far, even though we've spent a lot of time, we're at the zoning phase. And so there will be a lot of time for us to really fine tune some of those items and to probably put possibly some additional trailheads, or to make certain that we're not blocking a trail that exists. So that is not our intention. But it's a great question. Thank you. Please, back here, young man. It's a great question. So, I learned this from my dad. My dad was a diesel mechanic, and I grew up under the hood of a car with my dad. And I learned more about business from my dad under the hood of a car than I did all through my bachelor's and my master's degree. And that is, everything costs more and takes longer. And it is the truest statement in life. And so whatever I tell you, it's going to probably be a little bit longer than that. We wouldn't start for it will be probably 1.5 to 2 years. That process of us going through the city, going through planning commission, the planning process, these things all take quite a bit of time. And so we will be doing that through the process of the city. Does that answer your question? And then the far end, it probably would be 100, it would probably be 7 to 8, 9 years before all of the homes actually were built out. Yes, yeah, there would be construction. I believe it is 10 to 15 feet, somewhere in that range. 10 to 15 feet. It depends on some of the homes have wider setbacks.
Our zoning in our area is 10 feet from your house to your lawn. And
Right.
10 feet from your road, you got 20 feet.
Right. It could, yes. Yeah, yes, when we have smaller homes, generally we have a little bit tighter setbacks. The positive thing is that people don't have the space to put the junk on the side of it. Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question, and I don't think Vern is here any longer.
No. No.
Vern, oh, sorry. Okay.
I like it. And I think a lot of the concerns can be met with, school zones and things like that can be addressed as it's getting built with more traffic. I mean, the people that are speeding up and down your street, are neighbors, right?
Right.
So. Which should slow down traffic. If there's more cars, it should slow things down. There's another intersection anyway. I think it was good personally, but we got a lot to take out.
We can talk later. Okay, any other questions? Am I moving this?
We'll take maybe a last one unless there's a really burning. We've got.
I'm willing to take more questions though.
And he's going to stand up also, obviously, at the planning commission where they actually vote. And remember, this is information, and they've come, and we appreciate their time. So, but know that just in the interest of a few other people's schedules, we've got to kind of catch that.
Yes.
Yep, you're good.
Is there one more question? Did somebody have? Please.
Yeah, I would just love to say that I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of the plan. I am on the opposing side, unfortunately, and
Sure.
it's nothing personal.
No,
obviously.
it's fine.
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
But there's a reason why we have fought and over many years to not have this developed, because it is a highly used trail, and where you're building is where people prefer to walk. They don't want to walk on that sidewalk along Nevada, and nobody's going to Bicentennial Park to walk. We prefer that trail over the Bonneville Trail that's a little higher up the mountain bench. And that would be taken away with this.
So where do you like to walk?
It's right through, there's an old road that's like broken pavement.
Uh-huh.
That road is highly used.
Gotcha.
Today on the way here, we saw 7 teenagers, instead of on their phones, walking that trail.
Sure.
It's an easy cut from neighborhood to neighborhood to continue your walk, like you said, in a gorgeous
Yes.
location
Yeah.
of Provo that is super unique.
Sure.
And we would lose that. And once it's built and it's done. And it would be beneficial to the new neighbors, but there's so many of us there. And the tight housing would create more of an issue when a fire is going to happen, because they do happen often.
Sure.
And when they're that close and yards are that small, it doesn't give much of a buffer for a fire to slow down. And I don't know if you know this, or if the city does, but I'm curious how much water we have to fight a fire in the neighborhood. I don't even think we have enough for everybody who lives there, let alone 110 extra homes, And so that's a
Sure.
big concern, along with what everyone has said. And I think what we need more, who actually lives there and currently resides there, what is actually beneficial to us is to leave it and to develop it into something more natural and recreational instead of
Sure.
a development.
And
right?
I understand that. I really do. And I respect that. Thank you. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Yes. So just so we can, again, this is an amazing turnout and everyone should be congratulated for coming and being involved. Could we just get a show of hands so that we can get a rough percentage of those who came that feel great about the project and less so? Last.
Are these lots in comparison to Slate?
Which specific?
They were kind of.
Some of them, so the upper ones are probably going to be more similar size, about a quarter of it. There are some lots that are a quarter of an acre, which I think is more similar to some of the areas that you're talking about. I don't know the exact.
Along Slate Canyon Drive, those are 4.
Oh, so we're yeah. So well, some of the lower ones are smaller homes. Yes, you're exactly right, and those are where the homes are a little bit more affordable in the 575 range. As we go farther east, the home prices go up, the house size goes up. And so we do that on a lot. Lot sizes go up as well. Yep. Good. They generally are, because that's how we maintain the open space, the things like the pickleball courts and those types of things. Yeah. They have I think we're done. Thank you so very much. Do we have, how many, actually, not if you think it's great, how many think it's good? We'll go. Okay.
So maybe we'll just go do all the. Yes. So if we can just sort of do all the grading inside your head and go, I'm being forced, a yes or no. So if we can get a yes, all those with a yes. And
will you count online for me? Yes. Hold them high, guys. In favor, correct? In favor. 1, 2. Okay.
And
one-on-one.
And a no. Yeah.
6, 7, 8, 9. How many online? 3. 3 online. So 25.
And just real quick, remember, where your voice really counts is at the planning commission meeting and the city council. Your suggestions and questions and concerns will be given to the planner. It'll be part of the staff report. But the most important thing is to go to the meetings and state your opinion. And if you can't, there's some emails there where you can write to the planning commission and the city council. May 22nd, planning commission.
Great. We're just gonna roughly go through on our matching grant. There has been some trouble with those two items in the Old Willow Lane. But by the way, just in pursuing those things, the progress has been made that the neighborhood has secured agreements for a public right of way. And so regardless of matching grant here, those things I know are going to happen. Even if that's private funds. We've received some commitment for private funds to make sure that safe route to school for Wasatch is going to happen. We will make some progress on the wayfinding. Commissioner or Councilmember Handley is setting up a meeting to resolve some of the things that we can do with that. But we also need to find a new project. Hopefully, and instead of looking at expending money in July, part of the problem with these grant monies is that expending it by the 1st of July. Let's try and spend it early. So just a heads up for you, if you can think of something that the neighborhood needs, or you would, I will advocate for that. If we can get it done and start in the summer and look towards spending money in the fall instead of the next summer, because getting that deadline of expending funds is one of the problems that we're running into always. But we will make sure those are such two good ideas that I know that we're going to just see them through because of the value to the community. The next bits, is there anyone that was at the meeting on Slate Canyon Drive traffic? Vern alluded to that. There's a lot of attention. I know that from our executive board, we'll continue to work on safety on Slate Canyon Drive. It's a great interest. You have the support of all your neighbors, all the way up to Rock Canyon, even the ones of us that only drive on there, twice a year. We'll work on those things because we see the problems. Was there anything out of that meeting that needed specific follow-up just by the group? And so great. Thank you.
Thanks, McKay. So this meeting was held yesterday for the city council where they discussed Slate Canyon Drive parking. We held a town hall for the Provost and Provost South neighborhoods on April 11th. That recording and those notes are online and we can get that to you. And then this was kind of the follow-up to that and to some other discussions that the city council had. At that meeting, the city council, these are the goals that the council was looking at that they wanted to address. So one is reducing parking congestion on the road, safety of the road, including sightlines for residents, and regulate over occupancy and rental units through parking restrictions. So those are the three goals that the council was looking at. These were their two main options that they were looking at in regards to parking. There was also some discussion on traffic calming measures, and we'll follow up those with Vern, as he is always here helping us out and tracking that data for us. But as far as just parking, so the council is looking at parking regulation area. That's a code way of saying banning parking. So, and then a permit parking area, which is a way of saying banning parking, but if you have a permit, you can park on the road. The council, after discussion yesterday and then a meeting previous the month before in March, and then the town hall meeting with our neighborhoods, the council did decide to go with a parking regulation area. So on-street parking will be prohibited on Slate Canyon Drive between midnight and 6 a.m., between the access road up to Slate Canyon Park. And then the southern road is probably 1400 south. That is what we're planning on. And then kind of also the roads that go up into the HOAs up along Slate Canyon Drive will also be prohibited there. Nevada on the one that goes down a little bit, yes, as well on that. Just on the part that the city owns, most of that road the city does not own, so they cannot regulate some of that. These are just parts of the slides that just kind of I went over. This is general feedback that we had from the town hall meeting. Rachel, if you're gonna go to the next one. Okay, so the red on this map, wherever there's red, that is where parking will be prohibited from midnight to 6 a.m. We're shooting for June 1st. We have to figure out some funding situations. So it might be, it's not June 1st, it will be July 1st. But we're shooting for June 1st. Anyway, so that's kind of the update on Slate Canyon Drive parking. I know there's been a lot of discussion. As always, please reach out to the council@provo.org. That for feedback, concerns, questions, but if anybody has any questions now, I can try and answer those.
If the cars that are on Slate Canyon move elsewhere, what do we do about that?
Yeah, so I actually live in this neighborhood as well, so I feel the strain of this. I live up on Alpine Loop up there in that HOA community. But yeah, that's one of the concerns that the council is considering is if the cars start to move to other neighborhoods, right? So these HOAs, Aspen Summit and then Canyon Meadows, you can't park there. And then Alpine Brooks already, so where I live already, it's banned from midnight to 6 a.m. So they won't move up there. Going further south though, that is a concern that the council's looking at. And we have a council member here who wants to address that, so give it to her.
Please email us, like after it goes into effect, what you see, what you're experiencing, what you think, 6 months, a year, 1 month, 1 day, give us your feedback. I'd really, really appreciate that.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question? How does the council plan to notify all the residents on the road and what's their time frame? Because some of those residents are going to need a lot of lead time to prepare for that.
Yeah, so that's something that we're coordinating right now with administrative staff. So our parking team, we're talking to them. I had meetings, a lot of meetings today, talking with them about this, development services, Bill, who was just in here. And then also code enforcement, we're talking with the mayor as well, just trying to figure out if it's feasible funding wise and also notification wise to get this in effect. We're shooting for June 1st, but like you said, we want to make sure that people have notification that this is happening. So it's not just no one knows and one day there's a sign, you get a ticket. And parking is aware that sometimes when this goes into effect, then we put up a sign that there might be some leniency a little bit until we get fully into it and then it'll kind of start. But we are going to start ticketing once the signs are up. But obviously, if people were not aware, there'll be some leniency there, like you can appeal to parking. But we are working on an information campaign and making sure we get that info out to everyone. Rachel.
Damon, do you have a?
Yes, my concern was when this subdivision was designed, we have a 4,000 square foot home and you're expecting us to go down to 2 cars with literally a month's notification. Last we heard, everybody was discussing a parking permit. And then all of a sudden we go to this huge restriction.
So everyone's allowed to have up to 4 parkings. Well, you're supposed to have 4 parking spaces off street. If you don't, then it's what your house allows, but you're supposed to have at least 3. Most of these houses have 4. But again, if you have specific feedback or specific concerns, I should say, about your property, please email the council and I will look into that with our development services and parking.
How do you have 4 parking spaces when we've got a 2-car garage? We would have to play parking checkers to get cars out of the garage if we have 2 in the driveway and 2 in the garage. That's not 4 parking spaces. That's 2 parking spaces.
Well, it's in code that's considered 4 because you have 2 in the driveway and then 2 behind the car. 2 in the driveway and then 2 in the garage. So by code, that is considered 4 spaces.
But logistically, that's ridiculous. I mean, there's so many houses on this street that are between 3,000 and 4,000 square feet. Ours is 6-bedroom, 3-bath. We have 2 adult children that drive 4 cars. We can't play hopscotch with our cars every day just because there's 2 rental properties on this street that can't seem to get their act together and not have 7 cars each.
Yeah, I definitely understand. Where I live right now, that we're restricted midnight to 6 a.m. and it can be very annoying and very frustrating. Especially if you have visitors coming over trying to figure out how you're going to do parking. But our neighborhood makes that work. And if you do have concerns or suggestions, like Councilmember McKay mentioned earlier, please email the council and say, you know what, actually, I think maybe this.
I emailed the council and I got basically told, deal with it. That's how it's going to happen.
Okay, well.
There's nobody's happy about, they said that the neighborhood was okay with it. Nobody in this neighborhood is okay with it. Every one of my neighbors is highly irate that we can't park in our own neighborhood because somebody allowed a couple of rental units to get overoccupied.
Yeah, over-occupancy of rental units is frustrating and those nuisances definitely bleed out onto neighbors. And this is the solution the council has found to try and help. But we did a ban on overnight parking because it's also the easiest thing to then reverse. If we did permits, that's really hard to then undo. But if we find out a year, 6 months, a month from now, this is an absolute disaster in people's quality of life, or there's just no way the safety has actually gotten worse now, or the speeding has gone. That's why one of the reasons the council did it this way, because it's easy to reverse. And so
well, how about you reverse it on June 2nd and call it a disaster that it is?
They definitely could. They have the power to do that. So I would just make sure that you're staying in contact with them and giving them your feedback.
Yeah, I can get a signed letter from pretty much every neighbor that knows this is a disaster and has no idea how the city council came to such a ridiculous conclusion that this was the solution to a few overoccupied rental units.
I would definitely send that along to the council. That's the type of feedback that they're wanting. We have a bunch of questions here in the room, so we're going to get to those. But if you have more, I would just email the council. They also, most of these emails, they forwarded them on to me. So I'm meeting with parking almost every day. I'm here at work. So I'll definitely be looking at those as well. So thank you.
Okay, I've taken a lot of your time. I do appreciate you at least hearing me out.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Is mine working? My only comment is, one, I think this is so much better than zoning enforcement. And I will just say that over and over again, that I am grateful for the council to consider it, because the other option to this was heavy zoning enforcement, because you do have to have enough spaces for your car. That's the law, and they have to be fair to everybody. My only comment was, as you said, it goes up to the street that goes up to Slate Canyon. There are cars currently overflowing all the way past that right now. I just wanted to throw that out, that when I bike up there in the morning, there's sometimes in the summertime 8 to 10 cars that are already going north past that. So you will have overflow because they're already doing that right now. And yeah, and that my other comment too is that when we originally looked at this several years ago, it wasn't just Slate Canyon Drive. We also had the Pioneer, Deer Haven area, and then we also looked at Center Street to 580 South. I hope that when we're getting feedback, that we see how this works out, and maybe that we can do a parking study of those other areas too and address those other areas. That's a lot of feedback I got from residents in my neighborhood. He was next. Oh, go ahead, and then
Yeah.
this gentleman. Just go after him.
Okay. Wow. I mean, that was a lot of information right there. I've been baffled by all of this. Going through the data, I don't know that I fully understand what the problem is. We see that there's a little stretch of that road where there is, I think at 6 a.m., 82% occupancy of the parking stalls. But the solution is, as proposed, to do a parking restriction on the entire street when the data that shows that it was only 50% full max on the other sections of the street. So for those owners who live there, this is very perplexing. And we've been told over the years that there won't be a parking program unless people who lived on the street supported it. But it seems like we have a lot of opinions from people who don't live in the area and don't live on the street. And for some reason, they're given a voice in this. And my biggest question is, has the city polled exclusively the residents who this would affect? And if so, what did that polling say? Because those are the only people who matter. Like other people who live a half mile and a mile away don't matter. And like that lady just said, she was talking about my neighborhood. I know she doesn't live in my neighborhood, but we don't have a parking problem. Like I live in my neighborhood. I've owned my place for 7 years. I've lived in the neighborhood for 10 years. I've never not been able to park on the street immediately in front of my house. But then I have people who don't live in my neighborhood saying, you have a parking problem, we need to enforce. So I just don't understand this neighborhood warfare, and I'm tired of it. So I would like to see the people who live on the street polled, and that's it. Stop there, right? And so that's my only comment.
Okay, thank you. We haven't done an official poll of the neighborhood of the people that just live on that street. We did have the town hall with just that neighborhood there, and we got a lot of really good feedback there.
That town hall was open up to a fall.
Yeah, it's true. And we had people say where they lived at that town hall, and the council all listened to that and read that feedback. So
yeah, I've been waiting.
first.
2 comments. I think just to piggyback off yours, I think what would be most effective would be, like you said, a poll for the neighborhood with people who actually live there. Yeah, and then also there's a difference between what people who live there want and landlords, those who own it. But I'm going to speak the purpose of me commenting is specifically for the stub that goes from Nevada to Slate Canyon. It's a tight corner. There's often cars fully parked on both sides. Yes, that's
Yeah. It's kind of a disaster.
And when there's 2 cars there at night, like you have to I'm on my watch. I drive that very frequently.
Yeah, I drive it
And
every
you
day.
have to go about 5 miles an hour, even with no traffic, just to make sure that there's not an accident. Because when there's cars on both sides, it's totally hazardous.
Yes. And that is something actually I've talked with parking. We actually talked about that today. Cause last week I actually had to kind of drive off the side of the road so I didn't get hit. So I'm with you. That road is really weird. So if you noticed like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they put up no parking between these signs. That's technically the only part of the street that we own besides where the sidewalk is up at the top by the curves. No, so what we're going to do is we're going to put new signs when we implement this program. We're going to put new signs on that curve. So that way that whole section will not anymore. There are parts though that the city does not own that we can't, unfortunately, yeah. Yeah. So, but I agree with you and they're aware and we're working on that and it will be addressed. Oh, you had a question.
Oh, just one thing to remember is that
because of the new district program, we've been grouped in with many neighborhoods so for instance, some of you guys voted on stuff that directly impacted my neighborhood, like my street is that hill. And so just the way that the neighborhood program is working right now, we all have to vote on stuff like like we're connected that way. That's how they've done it. So if you don't like it, that's feedback you can give, right, Rachel? Isn't that open right now? The feedback for the district program? So if you don't like that you're grouped with other neighborhoods, I mean, there's advantages to it because we have a voice and we can work meetings like this and whatever, but there's also disadvantages in that sometimes you're grouped with other neighborhoods and people who don't necessarily live there or have to deal with the impacts of what they vote on are voting on it. So that happens now and it happens earlier and it's happened in other meetings too, where people are voting on stuff that doesn't necessarily directly impact them, but as District 2, it impacts us. So.
Okay, I think we're good, but again, this is in place and it on June 1st, like I said, if you hear otherwise, that is when this is going to. So just plan on June 1st, it going into place.
And just one final comment going off of the District 2 comment that Ashley made. We have had several meetings, District 2 meetings, where this has been addressed. So it's been an ongoing conversation, I think, for the last year. Rachel?
One more comment online. Yeah, homes.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know if I was supposed to speak. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You talk.
Yeah,
You
you
got
can go
this.
ahead and make your comment.
Yeah, this is Joe Mangisi, 1233 South Slate. I think you've got a lot of my emails. I know they've been a little over the top, but I got a work truck. I cannot fit in my driveway. And so I am incensed and I just wanted to voice my opinion. I think it's a horrible idea. What am I supposed to do with my work truck now? So that's my concern. I think it is one of the worst, no common sense type of ideas that you're just dumping on our neighborhood. I have no problems parking at all. I've never had a problem parking. And now the city council has abandoned common sense. And now I got to figure out where to put my work truck. I have a house. I get it. I've gotten the emails. The city owns the street, but I think it's a horrible idea. Thanks for listening to me. I know we're an hour behind agenda. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just frustrated and whatever, it's pretty much a shove it type of thing. And that's all I got to say. I hate the idea.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, all feedback is good feedback for us. We're the government, so anything is good. But yeah, I definitely get the frustration as someone who currently lives in the midnight to 6 a.m. restriction.
Thank you. We're going to move on at this point.
If it works. I just wanted to point out that I do live on the street. Oh, closer. Okay. I do live on the street. I am a homeowner. And I just wanted to point out that I oppose it as well. I have been following the parking permit program discussion. The total banishment of parking is new, though. That did appear to come up very suddenly. So it would be appreciated to poll the actual residents of Slate Canyon to see what they think and make them aware of these issues before they suddenly appear on the Provost South page. That would be appreciated.
I will say that the 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. did come up last year when I was chair. So that was brought up. I wrote a letter to the city concerning it. Dave connected as well. So that was on the agenda in this past year that we've been discussing it. So I know you feel like it's brand new, but it has been discussed in the past. But we've got city council here tonight, and I'm sure they'll take that into consideration. So thank you. So we're going to move on. McKay had to leave because we are running behind schedule. We're losing our executive board members. So he asked me to step in.
He'd like me to take 5 minutes to brainstorm enforcement issues. So there are different enforcement issues that we can focus on as a district. And he just kind of wanted to know what you might see as a problem that the city needs to enforce. It could be zoning issues like illegal duplexing. It could be parking. You know, I know I worked with Vern Kiesler with some parking issues down on off of 300 South this last year. And so he just wanted to know if anybody here has any enforcement issues that you'd like to, you know, kind of go ahead, Hannah.
I think they need to focus more on the vehicle limits over occupancy. Is it working? We've talked about that before. I would like to see more vehicle limits over occupancy. And I'm saying that as a landlord in Southeast Provo. You know, I had a unit in Deer Haven and Pioneer that when I went to city, they said, no way, Hannah, you can only have 2 cars. You can only put 2 cars in and you can only bring revenue on 2 cars. Same thing right off of Slate Canyon Drive and Aspen Summit. There's a lot of it. There's a huge double standard in that. That's where the money is and how many parking spots you can have. I think it discourages investors significantly when you enforce on the vehicle limit. And so I would love to have the vehicle limit enforced. And one other thing about that is that it is required, you know, for a landlord to disclose that, you know, that you can only bring in so many cars, but there's not really a fine. I mean, if someone's doing it for the first time, I think they should get a leniency. If someone does it a second time, maybe a small fine. But when you have a landlord who purposely does not disclose the parking vehicle limit, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, or on the 10th property, they are clearly doing it for profit. And I think there needs to be a huge fine, because if there was, you could avoid maybe situations like the Slate Canyon parking situation that we're in right now.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a comment. Why don't we just ban parking in the entire city? Street parking, do it everywhere.
Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, do it at BYU, do all those apartments, the stadium, the 4th of July parade. Do it everywhere. Don't just punish us on Slate Canyon. Do it in your neighborhood.
Hey, time is mine. I do live on Slate Canyon and I do recognize a huge parking problem. And I'm very grateful that there is a ban. And I think it will rectify areas on my portion of Slate Canyon. And I'm very grateful for it. So I'm very thankful for it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments online, Rachel? Okay. I would say this as a resident and not an executive board member. I wish we could enforce on illegal and he's agreed to do a study of what those fines are and seeing if that $250 fine for illegal duplexing can be raised in a timely manner, because $250 maybe 20 years ago might have meant something, but today it's just considered the cost of doing business in Provo City if you're going to rent as a landlord. So that's mine, and I'll let McKay know that myself. But if anybody else has an enforcement issue you'd like to have considered, you can email McKay at McKay, that's MCKAY.Jensen, JENSEN @gmail.com. He asked that I give you his email address so you could email him directly. I'm sure we can make that available in the notes from the meeting. And Rachel, McKay had suggested that we just forego public comments because we're so over time. Is that okay? In that case, we're going to adjourn the meeting. We're grateful that all of you joined us online and in person. We appreciate your comments and concerns, and we do take those to heart. Thank you.